Hey everybody, I am back with Jared Blando. How you doing, Jared?
Hello. How y'all doing?
We are talking about RPG art and something we've already been discussing before I hit record on this video.
Hmm.
But what we're going to be talking about is this. This is kind of like the ground rules. We're going to be showing you some pictures of some art. And this is not to like say I think this is the best and I think this is worse. And that's not what the video is going to be about. The video is mainly going to be about what makes RPG art, good RPG art. When it comes to the old days, to the new days, what makes it a piece that stands out kind of for like the history of role playing games? Something that's very memorable. And we're also not going to be saying, like, this is the piece from so and so, and you can find it here. We're just going to be looking at pieces, talking about what makes good RPG art. Does that make sense? I think so.
Yeah.
So we'll start with this piece right here, and I will be able to say some stuff about this. This is from the Player's Handbook from AD&D First Edition, and we've been talking about it a little bit. But what do you think about this piece? It's iconic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the what is it? This AD&D version of this one
Yeah.
is basically kind of a redo version of this, right?
The
The
This is from AD&D First Edition, the Player's Handbook, and it's been kind of not spoofed on, but people have taken a lot from this. Like it's
yeah.
probably one of the most iconic pieces of art from the old days.
Okay. What
But
was the? I thought there was a more detailed version. I know there's a second. There's a second version from the thieves' perspective, right?
yeah,
Which was was that
that's where we get bogged down about where stuff is, and I'm going to
okay?
be
Well,
like, I
whatever.
have no clue where it
Uh,
is.
no, it's. I think with D&D art, any fantasy art, and we had talked about this earlier, but it's about like it being evocative. So like the technique, this, that, whatever, while it does weigh into it, it's really like, is it evocative to the viewer? Right. And
Right.
this is obviously telling a story. It is distinct. The colors, the way what's going on, just the art style.
Yeah.
It's just very distinct. It's very D&D. It's just very RPG fantasy. I mean, D&D is that to a lot of people, to most people. They think of RPG fantasy is D&D, and this is kind of quintessential. And it's good. I mean, it looks crude, I guess, in comparison with the new stuff, quote
Right.
unquote. But back in those days, they didn't really have much of a budget,
Right.
and that's just part of it. I think that's part of the charm too. It's like a lot of up and coming artists and whoever could contribute artwork, and they would do it. And not that this isn't a talented artist or anything, but it's kind of like that's part of it. It's why a lot of the original stuff is in black and white and stuff too, right? It's just price, still
Right.
a company, like they
Definitely
still have
printing
their
paper.
bottom line.
Yeah, and you don't have a color paper. You're not doing stuff in colors, so that's
Yeah.
where your black and white art's going to come from. I tell you, for me, a lot of what this piece does, and it's something I like in general with RPG art, is it has multiple people doing different things.
Yeah.
From prying out the gem in the eye to kind of gathering up these corpses of these lizard men or whatever they are. These guys with like the box. I like a lot of pieces that kind of, and this has always kind of been my personal thing, is just I like seeing people in action, not necessarily in a action shot, like they're doing things that you will do in the game. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like we're gonna go do this, and we're
Yeah,
gonna go do that,
that's true.
and I think
That's
that's
true. Like I feel like a lot of the action shots nowadays. Well, what part of the problem is a lot of the action stuff, or not problem, but one of the evolutions is like every cover they're just like fighting,
yeah,
and
and
I'm
they're
just like, okay, that's like watching a crappy action movie, and most action movies just people fighting, but it's like really good books, really good this, really good that. They have a lot more than that, and I
right,
feel like I agree with you. Like this is, I guess, started off on a good tone where it's like, yeah, there's a lot you can do in this game. Like you
yeah,
can be one of the thieves prying the jewel out of the eye, or you could be this guy who looks like he's signing some kind of document and some kind of merchant. These guys are
right,
bringing stuff in. There's a monster hunter dude. There's some guard. There's a mage that looks like he's complaining to some guy that's just cleaning his sword. Like, like you're just like, okay, things are happening. It looks
we're all
pretty
involved.
dynamic. Like it
Yeah,
looks like a living, breathing world, and they're not just fighting. There's no fighting. It
yeah.
looked like that fight had taken place. It's over now.
Yeah, the fight is done. They're getting their spoils, and there's 11 of them, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 11 of them. That's a big
Yeah.
party. That's a big group. But it's such an iconic piece. It's one kind of to start off with, and that's where a lot of what my discussion kind of is. What we talked about before. Here we've got deities and demigods. This is from Errol Otis, and if I'm not mistaken, that's another thing too. Don't hold us down to anything I say. We could be completely wrong. Please do
Yeah.
not, you know,
I have some insight into it, but I don't know all of them.
right.
It's a lot.
But like this piece here, so it's kind of like what you said, and this is something I talked about earlier on. You have to think about access to this art back in those days. Where did you find it? Maybe you found it on the cover of a fantasy novel. Maybe you found it in a magazine or something. But to see characters like these fighting monsters, going to strange places, dungeons, it was attached to the thing you were actively doing. And that's the only place you really saw it. So I feel as if this this piece, and again, I have not grabbed, I chose most of these pieces, I have not grabbed like the best pieces of art to showcase certain artists or certain games or anything like that. I'm just grabbing art so we can I grabbed art so we can discuss it. There
Yeah.
are some artists that we both personally like.
Yeah.
I have been unapologetically super fan of Jeff Easley, and of course I will say that now, and that's the way it always is. And so just so that everybody knows that these are just things I said. Hey, deities and demigods. Let's talk about that and let's see what we can pull out of it. So you didn't get to see this art all the time, and you were actively using the game. You were using the book that had it on it, so it becomes kind of embedded in your enjoyment of that game.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, it's like video game artwork, like on the
Mhm,
Atari video game artwork, Nintendo, all of the artwork on that cartridge
mhm.
was what you imagine was going in on the game because the game looked like crap, right?
Right,
In Atari, and
right.
but the thing that wasn't the point. The point was for the artwork to be one to sell.
Mhm,
It has to look evocative. It has to look exciting. It has to
right.
represent kind of what's going on in the
Mhm.
game. But as we've seen, that's not always the case
No.
with video
And
game artwork.
or like movie cover artwork
Oh,
back in the 80s. So many of
oh
them
yeah.
looked amazing, and then they were junk.
Exactly. It was whatever, whoever. Just get put something on the box, sell it. This is kind of in that vein where it's
Mhm.
like it's not the same because it's representative, I guess, of what can happen,
Right.
but it's bright, it's vigorous, it's a design to get your attention when you walk into the bookstore or into like remember like if you look at like chainmail and
Mhm.
like all these other like productions of like rule sets, they're all like and even like old school war games, they're boring. At
Right.
least in like the early 70s, 60s, they're very clinical,
Yeah.
very clinical. And then this stuff comes along
And it's gotta
and
sell.
yeah, and that started with like selling trade paperbacks, right?
Mhm.
That was a big
Right.
thing. Same
Right.
thing. You got to put a good cover on there because that's your advertise. That's your
Yeah.
primary advertising. You don't have internet, you don't have fucking TV or
Yep.
not much, especially not in color. Although the 70s obviously that changed, but like
Yeah.
the 60s a little bit. But basically, it's an advertising piece,
Yeah.
and it has certain things it needs to do.
Right.
And being bright and being colorful and being interesting is it's pretty
It does
important.
does a lot of heavy lifting, and there are many
Yeah,
people that say this piece here is amazing. It is
it's fun.
fantastic, and I think it's just so interesting that people say that, and I do not disagree with them. And then another piece come down, down history's way there. It's more technically amazing. It's more, proper in the way that the characters look and their gear and it's like it just doesn't hold. You know what I mean? It doesn't this dives in more to the fantasy of it.
Yeah.
And I think as we start getting more into reality looking, we lose kind of that wonder of what it's depicting. You know what I mean? And that strange, that oddity, that different.
Well, people don't want a lot of times people don't want reality in their fantasy,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Right. They want it
you gotta
separate.
you gotta look at the time when this is coming out too. Like
Yeah.
there are socio-political things, there's a lot of pressures. Like people, there's a reason why when the going gets tough, for a lot of people, people tend like fantasy goes up.
Right.
It sells better, it
Escape.
reads better. You know, it's an escape. It's escapism, and this is very much leaning into classic. It is classic fantasy tropes.
Right.
Even and we talked about this earlier, like what they're wearing. Like a lot
Mhm.
of times, like what they're wearing and stuff, like it looks ridiculous, or whatever, but it's like more believable
Yeah.
than the stuff that they're wearing now, where it's like it's a very like a lot of new work is like it kind of comes out of like conceptual art,
Uh-huh.
conceptualism. And I do this all the time as a cartographer and as an illustrator. And it's like you get some of these stuff from people, and I'm like, this is like what looks cool as a conceptual art, it's a piece of conceptual art, trying to turn that into practical art
Mhm.
is very different because
Right.
it reads differently.
Yeah.
Conceptual art is supposed to be evocative and interesting. It doesn't have to make sense. But this stuff, kind of like the old stuff, it treads the line of like it does make sense.
Right.
Like it what they're wearing makes sense. What they're doing is insane, but it looks cool. Like it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's still grounded in a
Yeah.
different kind of reality, a real, our reality, even though it's very fantastical.
Which takes us into the more modern, and that's what I've kind of done. I've kind of shown you
Yeah,
where it kind of began. You know, a lot of art, a lot of pieces that people like.
for
And
this
again,
time
just want to
changes.
reiterate, I have not said that this is, we're not picking on anything. I grabbed some that's memorable to me. I know it. Um, this piece here, from a fifth edition.
I think
I'm gonna say a couple critiques I have about newer art like this. And I think you said that you think this is digital, right?
this is definitely digital.
Yeah. I have the tendency to see in modern pieces like this, especially from D&D, Wizard of the Coast, they show you something detailed, and then they want to draw your eye to it, but then once your eye gets away from the detail, it's like it loses definition, it
Yeah,
loses resolution, it loses clarity. If you look at like his cloak or whatever is the remnants of his outfit there, see how it kind of like starts to break apart and not be defined as well, you
yeah.
know? And I to me, there's something about that I don't like. And I don't mind saying stuff we don't like. I don't like that. It doesn't irk me completely, but there is a disconnect for me when I see like that pile of bodies, heads or whatever. It doesn't want me to really look at it. It wants me to look at it in a passing glance. Does that make
Well,
sense?
it the reason I'll tell you the reason why. The reason why is because that's exactly what they're doing. They're bringing this is the right side of the image is the front cover.
Right.
The left side of the image is the back cover.
Mhm.
And this is the difference in production now, where
Mhm.
production is so much more streamlined. There are many steps between the initial thumbnail and it going into production. Like
Right.
there much more, I think, than there was, and it's much more thought out. And a lot of these pieces, like not only is art changed a little bit with that, hey, I'm going to hyper focus on this one thing, make it very detailed, and then everything around that. It's like trying to capture an emotion, right?
Uh-huh.
And from your perspective, well, you as a human can only focus on one area, and everything
Mhm.
else is kind of like dreamlike, right? And it
Right.
works for a piece like this, even though I'm not the biggest fan of this piece. Technically, I think it's very good,
Yeah.
although you can see the difference in the color palette,
Right.
right? Where it's very much muted with some punches of color. But on the right, this I think this is a DM's guide. The DM's guide
Yeah.
title is going to go across. They know exactly where it's going to be placed, the areas that are going to be utilized, and on the back, not so much. It doesn't matter as much because you got a wall of text, you got the labels, you got this, you got that, and it doesn't matter. They're
Yeah.
looking at the cover. They're not looking at the back.
Strategically
So I
placed
think it's
art.
not only like just a design, it's an artistic shift in
Mhm.
how artists kind of tackle art because of the way digital art allows you to execute pieces differently
Mhm.
and push and pull things. It's also just a strategic. Same here. You literally say on the left is the I think is the cover.
Yeah, the cover and the
So and then the
right
back
is
is the back.
right.
There's not much going on there. Everything's pulled to that
Yeah.
one area. You see how her rapier or her sword is pointing at his eyes. His
Yeah.
eyes are looking down at her face. There's a bolt of light right in between them, next
Mhm.
to very dark. That's all designed to. This is all just as an artist. Like these are the things that you look at.
Right.
Um,
To
and
draw the eye.
it's an interesting piece.
Mhm.
But I do agree. Like you know, again, the color palette, everything's muted. It's
Mhm,
like everything's like nothing on them is really distinguishable, and it doesn't matter because it's using realistic lighting.
mhm,
So, you know, you get his helmet and his stuff, and that looks interesting, kind of, but it's all like it's like how they do history when they make history shows.
mhm.
Everything's in like shades of like brown and black and gray,
Sepia.
which is
Yeah,
not historically accurate at all, but it
right,
looks good on camera and it's good enough. Some of that has kind of carried over into art, where it's
right,
like not every artist, but like they're using a very specific color palette and they're sticking to that color palette,
right.
and it looks good. You got orange, you got blue, you have, you know, like it all works more
Mhm,
organically, but it's not as interesting as
right.
even that first piece,
Yeah,
right?
it's definitely not, and I remember when this piece came out, somebody online said that if you like, you're doing one of those magic, like, picture things, like, if you barely kinda cross your eyes,
Yeah,
you can't tell what it is. Like, it becomes like a muted, kind of weird blob of, like, color and stuff. It doesn't it doesn't it can't stand out on its own shape. You see what I'm saying? It's so busy in there that if you were to be just a little bit blurry, you immediately can't make it out because it's so hyper focused at trying to, show attention to those things. Like there's a character at the bottom left. I don't know if you can see that. You see what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like there's a, and it's like, wow, it's
Well,
not really
it works from a realistic lighting perspective,
right.
but it's not realistic lighting. It's just like how movies are shot now. Everybody, all DPs, they're all using realistic lighting, and you're just
Mhm.
like, why is everything murky and like
Yeah,
ugly? Because it's just
doesn't
it's
look
not
real.
interesting. It's just not that interesting. There, it's for production, and I'm not saying I got nothing against. I think this is Tyler Jacobson as well. He's a fantastic
It's a
artist.
great piece.
It's a great piece, and he does a lot of insane magic pieces,
Mhm.
and that was also another thing, bringing magic artists over to do D&D work,
Gotcha.
which was Rich Witters, who was an artist himself. He's still an artist himself, became the art director for D&D, and he actually sat the artists from D&D next to the Wizards artists, put their offices next to each other, and they started sharing artists
Gotcha.
because
That makes
there's
sense.
amazing talent in there.
You've got great talent there. Why not use them? You know.
Exactly. And I think it's successful sometimes, and I don't think it's successful other times, basically.
Then we've got this piece from the more, I think the most current
I don't
player's
mind this
handbook.
piece. I actually like this piece.
I think it's good. I think it's good. Again, it's where we have that kind of that te it's technically up, you know what I mean? It goes up, but then again, like the dragon, like it starts to like it scales and stuff. I'm just so used to the artist that, of course, that I love that
Yeah.
gave everything fully done. You know what I mean? But they didn't do it in a way that became busy. That's one of the problems too. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of art gets so busy if you make it very accurate and not this kind of abstract kind of blurring of colors or blurring of like angles and stuff like that. Like look at the dragon up in the top right, like is that scales? What is that? And you know, other artists from back in the day, especially the ones that I love, like I said, they would give that full detail. You know what I mean? You would see that completely, but it wouldn't be so busy that it looks like a mess. It looks like a jumbled mess of a bunch of really detailed art.
Yeah.
But this is a good piece. Um,
Again, this is that's why I say a lot of this comes from their. I feel like they're conceptual artists that have graduated or gone into like finished pieces.
mhm,
And the reason why I say this, conceptual artwork, when you look at conceptual artwork, is a specific type of artwork.
mhm,
It's there to be evocative. It's there
right,
to give writers and creators or whatever, whoever needs it, an idea of what the
right.
hell they're making.
A
So
direction.
yeah, and so it doesn't need to be hyper accurate. It just needs to be interesting and
Right.
like get your, you know, it kind of give you an idea of what's going on, like what the castle, say if it's a castle, what it looks like, what its lighting, the mood, all this
Mhm,
stuff. So that is really cool. But when you take conceptual artwork and you try to bring it into like a finished piece,
mhm.
this is sometimes the stuff that you get where it's like you said, the scales aren't done. Well, like in a conceptual piece doesn't matter
Right.
because you're like, it's good enough that I know that it scales and your brain is telling you what it is.
Right.
But on a finished piece, it's not as good. Like I think it works okay, but I totally see where you're coming from because you're
Mhm.
just like, what is that? It's like it's kind of like snake scales, I guess, like underside, but it's like
Yeah,
kind of like
furry maybe, a little bit
yeah.
hairy?
But he's not. The artist doesn't focus on that. The artist is
Right,
focused on
the
the
characters.
trio, or the what is it, five
1, 2,
five
4,
figures in the
yeah,
middle and the
5,
dragon
yeah.
head, and that's what's important to them. And the reason why I like this piece, I like bright, vibrant colors, and I
Yeah, it
actually
has a lot.
like that this is not super murky and like it's got like I like the cloak on the knight
Right.
and
The
the
greens,
runes.
her
So
red
it goes
hair,
tight, kind of goes tight when it needs to go, where it
mhm,
needs to go tight. But I agree, like it's different. It's a
and
different way of tackling it.
right, and I wonder if someone who's new to the game, they've started 5th edition, whatever edition this is, 5 point whatever you wanna call it, whatever. They started with this book, right? Like, when they see a Jeff Easley, a Larry Elmore, what are their thoughts about that art? You know what I mean? I'd love to get someone that doesn't have kind of our history, and maybe some people can comment about it. But like, what are their thoughts about this art? Is this as iconic as that art is for us, for them? You know what I'm saying? Like, are they going to be like, this piece is amazing. I love this piece. And then they look at a Jeff Easley or they look at Larry Elmore and they're like, yeah, that's good too, but or do they actually sit there and look at it and say, you know what? That is a lot better art. I
I
like
think
that piece better."
I don't know if it's better.
Right.
I will say that even from the costuming perspective, like the way that fantasy artists would paint,
Mhm.
how they would paint, they would use models. They would dress them up. They
Right.
would take either have them live modeling or they would take pictures of people, and they still do that. But like you'll see a huge difference in the way that the figures literally are painted and what they're wearing. Much
Mhm.
more thought went into what these people are wearing
Right.
back in the day because they were probably wearing something close to it
Mhm.
or at least extrapolated out of something real. Whereas on these pieces, it's like World of Warcraft armor.
Right.
Like the armor doesn't make any sense. The what is it like? Even though I like this piece, I'm like, what is how is this cloak connected to the piece of armor? Like that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like there's a lot of things that the thing is like a lot of modern artists they don't know anything about that and they don't work that way.
Right.
They don't have that grounded section of reality that they're painting off of, you
Right.
know? So,
No, I'm with you with that, definitely. Here we've got another busy art scene, busy action scene. That's another thing too is they a lot of the art that I like from my editions of D&D, it was very static characters lots of times. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's just like you took them in as who they were. And it seems like modern RPG art. And that's another thing I want to say real quick. I know people probably said this. This is not going to have a bunch of alternate art. There's only so much art I could grab. I couldn't grab tons of great sci-fi like space RPG art, or there's some phenomenal post-apocalyptic art. There's tons of it, and I
mhm,
just simply couldn't do it. We got to try to stay focused as much as possible. I grabbed some pieces, so you won't see a whole bunch of that. There are some alternative stuff I did throw in there just to kind of bring up for certain kind of timelines of role-playing games. But I see this again as just a prime example of all this kind of ziggy zaggy, that conceptual stuff you're talking about, all this kind of it's like like that magic that's coming off the hand. It goes all around everywhere, and then look at the bottom. It's just to me it's like
murk,
smushes and mushes, and it just
murk.
does
It's
that
just
make
murky. It's murky.
yeah
They're like I think my problem. I don't particularly like this piece. Again, I have nothing against the artist.
right?
They're obviously very talented. I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
their
I'd
name.
love to be able to draw like this, man.
Yeah, I mean they're a fantastic painter. But I think this is like art direction stuff where it's
Mhm.
just like, so where's my eye resting? I guess I could rest it. When I first look at this piece, the first thing I look at is her pauldron,
Mhm.
on her arm, and
Yeah,
then it goes
her
down,
hair. I
right,
do
and
her
her hair.
hair.
But
Yep,
what's weird is like then I guess you should be looking up more at like it looks like a child that's casting magic.
I know some
That's another
small
thing.
thing.
It looks very small, but
Yeah,
like she's murky. So then you go back to the central figure, but she's not looking at you. She's not like one of the most important things is like looking humans identify eyes. You
right.
you you immediately go to somebody's eyes, right? There are no eyes in this except for the kid or the woman, whatever, the small woman in the back casting magic, but it's so nondescript
Yeah,
that she's not the center. So then your eye gets drawn to like where her hand is because obviously like you have
like
white
the
right
energy.
next to the dark,
Yeah,
but it's like it doesn't work. Like the
right.
piece, I don't think this piece particularly works.
Mhm.
Um, and from the equipment perspective, looks fine. This is actually, I think, better than the other
Yeah,
one.
I agree.
I think they're mostly believable. It's fine. Again, like I'm a big people probably that watch this channel know that I harp on history a lot, and
Right.
I think that's important, like borrowing from history, so that it just gives you that subconscious connection. So this isn't particularly bad, but like even the bad guys are just kind of like,
I'll go back.
yeah, they're just all like faced away from you, except for this one that's
You're
again like
right.
in the shadow, like non,
So
and it's all like kind of realistic lighting, but it's not
yeah,
that interesting. Like, yeah,
it's almost as if they don't want a piece that is relaxed, that shows the characters. Even if you go all the way back to that player's handbook thing, from first edition, they don't want to show characters just kind of doing mundane. It's always now got to be action, like you said. It's got to sell. It's got to pop. But for
yeah.
some reason, there's just a disconnect. And this is, if you think about it, this is the prime thing you're doing in a role playing game is getting into action like this and really tearing it up. So it's interesting to kind of pulled back away from it and be like, it's just an
But I,
action scene.
but I feel like I think that's actually, it's almost like fifth edition art directors almost did it subconsciously, because a lot of people that play 5e, a lot of it is fighting,
Right.
which is one of my problems personally. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think the
Mhm.
combat is not great and it takes a while, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of it. There's just a
Yeah.
lot of it.
Yeah. They
And
want you
they
to
don't
draw a
give
lot.
you a hell of, I mean, obviously it's a game that you want to play. There's plenty of things you can do and house
Right.
rule, and there's tons of supplements, but the base core game, the three books are kind of they revolve around a lot of that,
Mhm.
and it's just weird, and it's just funny to me that like the covers are just like combat. it's
Yeah.
like it's like, oh no,
Brawling
no,
up.
that's what you're gonna be doing. It's
Well,
fine.
and they've done that for a while. Even a lot of like this cover here. You know
But
what I mean?
look how much more interesting this cover is.
It is more interesting, and
like
I want to. I mean, I think that's a third edition cover or something, right? I mean,
I believe,
um,
yeah, that looks like third edition,
it's
third or fourth.
is it Wayne Reynolds? Is that his name?
I
I
think it
believe
is Wayne Reynolds. Yeah,
so.
this is traditional, I
And he
believe.
stands out. Like his art stands out because he had such a big part um in that edition. But like, okay, so when I first saw, I like these pieces. I don't know if I like, and again, this is where we attach art, I think, to when we most were into the game or kind of shaped by the game. You know what I'm saying? So like, third edition, I'd already been playing D&D for a while. Second edition, Jeff Easley, Larry Elmore, Clyde Caldwell, Keith
Yeah.
Parkinson. And so like with this, I was kind of like, well, I know D&D. Here's another edition. Yeah, this art's good, but it doesn't attach to me. Like, it doesn't attach as much to me, even though I do enjoy this piece. I think the Beholder looks
Mhm.
fantastic, and he's really brawling it up. It is very much an action shot. So they've been doing that for quite a while, but it lacks that conceptual art look, which I think is, to me, when you said that, that really solidifies I don't like that. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't like conceptual art. I like stuff to be clear. I like to be able to really look at stuff and see, what's what. Now her armor, I think, is probably a mess. You know what I mean? Like in
No,
design
I
and
mean
stuff like that.
it's heroin armor, and
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. It's a fantasy game, so
Right.
I like one of the things that I this he did a lot of work for Pathfinder,
Yeah.
and which I fucking love his
Mhm.
work for Pathfinder. I like his work in general because I like the fact that it's stylized. I like the fact that it has a distinctive look, has a distinctive voice. Everything is very legible, and it also just looks like they're just having an encounter, like in this cave. You look in the back of the cave, and you look at the details on like the top, and
Yep.
you're just like, yeah, this is just like these guys are just encountered this beholder, and shit's going down, and it looks like it's sorry, it looks like it's getting a little dicey. Like I don't
It's
know, it's very dynamic in a good way.
it's sharp, it's kind of edgy, you know what I'm saying? Completely different than what we've seen. It's almost less, but it's also more. It's like a weird thing compared to the one before. I think this is it's a neat little switch between those two. So here we got an action shot, but it's clearer, more
Mm-hmm.
clear. I tend to look at, like you said, like the stalactites up on top there. You know what I mean? I kind of like, drift off to that. The eyes on the side.
Yeah, it
So
looks great.
there's different stuff that draws your eye instead of, I think, just one thing. Of course, it's funny we're talking about drawing eyes with a beholder there, but I think it's a good piece. And then we've got your guy. So that's Todd
My
Lockwood,
guy.
right? Yeah, Todd Lockwood. You're a big
Oh,
fan,
I mean,
right?
lots of people watching this will know Todd Lockwood.
Yeah. I
He's
love the dragon. The dragon's
extremely
fantastic.
influential.
Yeah.
Especially, I think he popped out in third edition,
Yeah.
really, because he did a
He
lot
did.
of the work for the player's handbook, like the pencil drawings.
Mhm.
He did like the what do they call it, like the pencil drawing of the guy, and it's just what is it, the very famous Da Vinci drawing,
Right.
but he did it in D&D version with like him
Right.
having armor and him not like he, I feel like, is a gap. He bridges the gap between the old and the new because he
Mhm.
did artwork for the old stuff. Still had that look. It still had that kind of style. He still was traditional, although he was transitioning into digital by the time the third edition came out,
Mhm.
3.5. Um, but yeah, it's just interesting. I
Okay.
think Todd Lockwood's he's not my favorite artist, fantasy
Mhm.
artist, but he does some really interesting stuff. You could see like in the horns, just a lot of like textures and like different, just an interesting image. Even I think the ground is one of the most interesting things in
Yeah, it
this
looks good.
piece. Yeah, just like
He makes you look around, I see. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where it's a little different. Again, it also has a little bit of that Larry Elmore stare look, you know what I mean? Like, "Look at me."
mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great piece, and he does dragons. I'm not super critical of dragons, but I know what I like, and that's more of a dragon that I like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So and I dig it. I dig it a bunch. And then, Justin
Justin
Sweet,
Sweet. Justin
uh,
Sweet.
so you said this you think this is digital as well, right?
Pretty sure this is digital. His work. So Justin Sweet basically did a lot of the character work. He's still a working illustrator, but he did a lot of the work for Icewind Dale,
Mhm.
Icewind Dale 2. He did a lot of those character portraits, which I think Icewind Dale came out in what 1999. Icewind Dale 2 came out in what 2000. It's like
Okay.
in that transitional period between TSR
Mhm.
and Wizard of the Coast, right?
Right.
And so I think fantasy art was changing as well. New media was coming. The ability to work digitally and have it look traditional,
Mhm.
right,
Right.
was a huge thing that didn't exist before. So Justin Sweet is very evocative, very like his color palettes are like they can be there. He's like Brahm, and I
Yeah,
said that
like prom.
very Brahm, very like he loves the mud, like just dark sepia colors and just, but then bringing that kind of making it very evocative with like super bright, colors, whites that are coming out in contrast and just playing around with shadows. And yet
Mhm.
there's a lot going on in those shadows. Like even in the Panther, you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And his armor, it's like kind of
Oh, yeah.
nondescript, but it all kind of makes sense. You're just like, and you're not even looking at that because you're looking at this beautiful, vista that he's
Right.
created. And it's just super evocative. I love Justin Sweet, if
Yeah.
you couldn't
I
tell.
think this piece is fantastic, and again, I prefer this to almost any of the other, like, the more modern pieces that are there. It's so funny, just, Dritz looking off into the distance and,
And it's not dynamic. I mean, it's dynamic because it's evocative, but he's just standing there,
right,
right? He's not
looking
fighting
off.
some crazy monster. It's just very different.
And I love environments, you know what I mean? I like seeing scenery. And here's another one of his pieces too. Which,
Yeah,
again, we talked about how it's very Brahm-like, with
yeah.
very kind of detailed, more detailed, like muscles, bone, skin and flesh.
But
Um,
it's texture.
mhm,
It's just so much. You're just looking at his skin, and you're just
mhm.
looking at his muscles, like underneath his skin. He's just like an obsidian man, and you're
Yeah,
like, I've never seen like
yeah,
such a like you know what I mean. Like it's just such a different take. And you have to
right,
think of like at that time, like what dark elves look like, and his take on it. It was very
right.
fresh and new.
I dig it,
Um,
man. I'll go back to him. Yeah, I dig it, and I like his bracers there. Looks good. I dig it, and then the background as well. And then I
mhm,
wanted to just kind of show back a little bit of black and white art. This is a piece that I really, really enjoy. I believe this is from first edition Dungeon Master's Guide, but I like character. And I've said this in some of my other videos. I like characters doing what you're supposed to be doing in the game, like
mhm.
even in a mundane way. You know, you've got Magic Mouth up here talking to you as they're going down around. They've got their torches, they've got their weapons out. I dig that. Like this is to me is a cool piece uh, that shows actual Dungeons and Dragons to me. Like It doesn't have to always be combat. It has to, and again, the blacks and the whites, which we're going to talk about more when we get more into kind of that aspect of it and how strong that is.
It looks dark. It
Yeah,
looks like they're below the earth. It
yeah,
looks dark, and there's creepy mouth is talking to you. It looks like a human mouth, and the guy's like, "What the hell?" And then
hmm
they're all like, they're gripping their weapons because they don't know what to expect. It's just like it's so places you there. It takes
right,
you out of where you are and it puts you in the image,
hmm
and that's what art needs to do.
yeah,
Like this is as evocative as that Justin Sweet piece. You know what I
right,
mean? It's evocative in a different way, but they're doing the same thing,
right, and
which
it
is
doesn't.
funny because they're completely different,
Yeah,
like in technique and color palette. But that's what you want art to do, right?
exactly, and it's a lot of less is more. I think that goes a long way a lot with art too, for me anyhow, is that I don't need a whole bunch of super detailed stuff, and I just need kind of, you know, almost a hint of stuff, it seems, and we're gonna go to the next one here. This is a fantastic piece, I think, again, from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Um, I mean, just it a lot of the blacks, the strong shadows, and again, like I said just previously, OSR has really embraced a lot of that. I feel like my fandom, like my my biggest artists that I like really do well with really good blacks, you know?
Mm,
So, I mean, just look at like, underneath him, like he's standing on that like precipice and it's just super black underneath there. You know what I mean?
hmm.
It shows kind of the light of where he is with the black of what's around him. And it can be perceived, I think, as a little busy. You know what I'm saying? Look at the bottom, it's very busy, but it almost kind of makes you start looking for stuff. It's one of those pieces, almost like a Where's Waldo type thing about it's
But
little
he doesn't continue that the busyness of the ground and the way that it's done is different than what's on the characters.
right.
And that's actually a subtle interesting thing about this piece where it looks like the ground. It is busy and but all the characters are done with like very like line work, and then
Mhm.
you look at the ground and it's stipples. So
Right.
he intentionally did that, and then the paladin is flat line work for the most part. Like you can your eye moves around the
Yeah.
piece. You know what I
It
mean? I don't think it's super super busy.
No.
Um,
Just busier at the bottom a little bit than the top, trying to figure,
yeah.
"Oh, there's that," and then anything that's, like, not in the light, they do a good job at that of, he's exuding a lot of light. It's a paladin, and their shadows on their back are just straight black. You know what I mean? It's like a real cut and dry,
Yeah.
almost kinda mirroring, like, evil and good type thing, and I think that's one of the things I like the most about that type of art, and then Russ Nicholson. I mean, to me, he was so texture based and just, I mean, look at the dots. There's a couple pieces I've seen from him, and the dot work is just incredible. It's how he controlled shadows. This
Hmm.
piece here goes so strong for me. I mean, I think it is amazing. Look at the folds and the guy on the right. Look at his folds in his shirt there. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? The dot, there's line work. This is an incredible piece. Russ was absolutely amazing. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, I think the use of black and punching out the creature. I don't know what creature it is, but
Some sort
and
of like
like her face, next to the white, and like the look of like horror, and then like he's like chopping off the arm and screaming there, and like all the weapons are pointing at her.
mhm,
You know what I mean? Like so, it's all like it works.
yeah.
It's all literally pointing in where you want it to
It's
see what you want to see. It's very clear. Yeah, I mean, dude, some of the ink work's amazing. Like that's
Look
I
at
love
him.
that ink
Here's
work.
another one of his. I mean, my goodness. It's a little busy.
Did he
Uh,
do the cover? And because these are Githyanki, right?
yeah. Yeah, he did this one down here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he established the look of the Githyanki.
I believe so.
Mm.
We'll probably get slammed for that. Someone and say, "Oh, this guy did
Oh,
it." But
to the best of our knowledge,
yeah. But
either
I mean,
way,
look
he
how much he
continued.
nailed it. Look how much he nailed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know, look, there's a little guy over here on the right, peeking down below. You know what I mean? This is I think that's the thing. Is like I think about, okay, you're going to sit down and draw something. Look at the amount of detail he spent on certain aspects of it, and I just don't see that now. Of course, black and white art, you've got to really bring it up and out. You've really got like
Yes.
several layers. You've got just only a couple of layers of darkness and light to be able to bring this stuff out.
Hmm.
But look at the amount of effort he went through to portray that, you know, and
Yeah.
just so highly skilled and unique. And that's another thing too, is I feel that a lot of the pieces that are new that we showed earlier and some of the ones I haven't shown that I didn't pick that are 5th edition and new edition stuff, they could be almost anybody's art.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you who it is. Boy, did he have a unique look right here. Boy, did
Hmm.
it stand out anytime you saw it. And it's gonna be like that way for a lot of those guys back in the day, and I think it has to do with because they had less, their individual skill had to come out more, you know? And they had to really show, "This is how I do stuff, and this is my style," you know?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
boy,
there was just less opportunity, so you had to show your talent.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's another thing. Is that there was just less shit to work on, stuff to work on. Excuse me.
Then we got Merkborg. And just for once, again, I want to say, everybody, it is pronounced Merkborg
Merc.
because we got a lot of Morkborg. We got a lot of the Swedish Chef type thing. So Johan Nor did this, and I've got another piece too. And I just wanted to kind of show the way that kind of like the new SR, new OSR type stuff does. I think this is a cool piece, man. A lot of people, they crap on like Merkborg because of its layout and its design, but I think a lot of the pieces they change so quickly. They're not like held down to one design.
Mm.
And they use bold colors. They use striking stuff. You can see that here with this next piece right here. Little muddled, little wild. But what do you think about this? Like, I don't love this. It's not my preferred style. I'm just kind of showing you some of the way that some of the new stuff that's made is trying to go back to the old ways a
Well,
little bit.
I think the interesting thing is these pieces are basically they're mixing illustration with graphic design,
Right.
and that's very intentional,
Mhm.
and it makes it very interesting. As somebody who uses a lot of geometric work in my cartography,
Mhm.
uh, that is a lot of people find that appealing. This is doing something very similar. It's using a very graphic, very organic angle, the pen
Mhm.
and ink versus or with in cahoots with basically the more graphic stuff that you're putting in there. So
Mhm.
like obviously like the patterns and stuff are like behind it, and so that kind of pumps out the more illustrative stuff. So it's
Right.
like it's drawing your eye. It's interesting. It is. I like that term. It's wild. It is
Yeah.
wild. It's
It's a
weird.
wild piece. Yeah,
They
it's
don't.
very weird, very very strange, and it goes well with the game. And then, of course, my shout out, of course, to Outcast Silver Raiders, which I absolutely think the game is brilliant. I dig this art style a lot. It's look how kind of raw and different that is.
It's
Um,
very vigorous.
yes, it's very it's I mean, of course, the red is gonna be aggressive, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But look how much it's able to do with those 3 colors and not be super detailed. Look at the arm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, wow, what a different style, but it goes so well with what this game does. That's another thing too is melding the style with the game, you know? And that piece right there, it's perfect for Outcast Silver Raiders and what you do in it. Um, and I dig how we've got some bold color choices that are happening with this art compared to other. Look how much it's able to do with 3 colors,
Yeah.
give or take. You know what I mean? When you think about it, I think that's it. I mean, I don't see any grays or anything. I literally
No.
just see black, white, and red. And the use of white that he does is awesome. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that white brings out so much with just being white. You know, I really dig it. I got one more piece just to show it off.
Yeah. I like this one.
Yeah, and it's look at that, the little dots and stuff. I don't know. I just wanted to show that out there. Some difference about what's going on. Here is a Jim Holloway. One thing I really liked about him, and sadly he's passed away as well, is the face. He has almost a little bit of a, I'm not going to say cartoonish, but it's a little bit of caricature faces a little bit, but they're very emotional. They're very expressive.
Yeah.
Like the next one I'm going to show here uh, is going to really show that off. Look at the face, you know, of these people. Fear, the horror, like scared, whatever.
Well,
You know,
everybody has a face.
yeah,
There's not a single person that's turned away from the viewer.
right. And you can
Which, when you look at the other pieces, that's not how it is.
right.
The current pieces, a lot of them are turned away. They're more like action. This is more posed,
Mhm.
but it also like it it's also almost less posed because it looks like everybody's horrified about this
Right.
freaking mummy that's coming out of the thing. Like you can read everybody's
Yeah.
expression and what they feel and what they're doing.
Mhm.
Like I don't know, yeah, it's great.
I dig it, and I picked it mainly because it was a color piece that helped stand out. She's obviously grabbed part of, like, the linens of the mummy. She still has it in her hand, and then it's grabbed
Yeah.
her, and she's absolutely you can see she's like, "What the heck's going?" You know what I mean? Like, and then the dude in front of her, he's completely freaking out. I don't know, I dig the fact that he expressed emotions more than other artists did in the situations that they were in,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And then here we go. And this is where, of course, I'm gonna
Yeah.
completely nerd out here and show my second edition roots is Larry Elmore, amazing. And
Hmm.
this is the disconnect I have from newer art is, for starters, Larry did tons of really he was like a wilderness artist, and he placed characters there. And
Hmm.
my connection to D&D a lot is wilderness, outdoor exploration. When I was outside playing as a kid, it was all about the woods I was in, the creeks I was jumping over. I love going to the mountains or whatever. It's all about the environment. And I felt, brings that. And they look at the tree. I mean, look at the ground, look at the tufts of
Hmm.
grass coming up. This is an incredible piece.
And I'll just say, like, if you look at what they're wearing, how they're posed,
Mm-hmm.
you could probably, if you bring up Elmore, you could probably find all the photos of all of these uh models and
Models, yeah.
what they're wearing and wow, he probably had a photo of her
Mhm.
leaning on this guy who's, and he's probably dressed up. They're not all dressed completely that way, but that carries through in the work, in the artwork. The ogre or the giant is probably Elmore himself. He probably has a photo literally of him, like
That'd be great.
that's a big thing as an artist. When you're a figurative artist, you have your own studio,
Right.
you photo studio, and that was a huge thing at this time, still is to an extent. But that's why I think that that's evocative to us because
Mhm.
those are people that are posed,
Right.
but they're people, and what they're wearing, he's translating their emotion, what he's seeing, into his image. It all feels real. This feels real.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
interesting. There's just something about, obviously he's a beautiful wilderness
Oh, yeah.
illustrator, and that is also, we've all been here. We've been out in the snow, or most
Yeah.
of us have been out in the snow
Yeah.
during winter. This is a scene that everything in this image feels believable.
Right.
Nothing is outlandish. Even the giant doesn't really, what he's wearing and what he's wielding. It just
Right.
looks, he's got a bunch of animals. It looks like people that he captured. You're just like, yeah, okay,
Footprints.
like everything, nothing looks unreal. Like the suspension of disbelief here
Mhm.
isn't very high, despite it being a fantastical image. it
Yeah.
it looks like that could happen, and I
Uh,
think that's a huge difference. Like this, yeah,
yeah.
I mean, a little different, but
Well, this
yeah, a bunch of people around a
this
fire.
this goes to Larry's looking at the camera thing, kinda like you were talking about before. I see it as like, "Hey, everybody, look over here. Take a picture." And I actually got to meet him at, I think it was Gen Con, and I asked him about that because the covers of all, like, the Chronicles books had all the characters looking at you, and I
Mhm.
I I connected with that, and I asked him about that, and he said, and I think I've said this in other videos, he just said, "Hey, they told me to show characters, and I thought that it would be normal for them to be looking at the point of reference of the piece of art." And I said, "Well, look, it meant a lot to me. Like, it was able to make me connect with all these characters and what you were saying about the eyes, at
Mhm.
looking at you. And it's difficult for me sometimes. He's great with lighting. You know what I mean? He's fantastic with light, which helps a lot. Honestly,
Yeah.
if you can get lighting, and that's what a lot of art is, obviously, is knowing your shadows and stuff like that. But the
Mhm.
fire, and again, this is a place that we've all been in D&D. We've not all been on some mountainside and there's some huge monster, and I feel like new D&D wants to try to make these massive creatures you'd never fight, make them front and center. Where old D&D wanted to make the most mundane, kind of normal thing, creature
Yeah.
you were fighting or place you're at, be what you're doing because that's what you're doing most of, and let those things be rare. And look at that. That is such a cool piece, showing all the characters that and you go by and you, okay, that's him, and that's Tannis. There's Raistlin. You know what I mean? You're like, there they all are, and And it
Well,
helped that, of course, it was
who hasn't
it
been around a fire with their friends?
yeah, exactly, you know?
like, like that's so cool. Like it's so, and it's interesting because what they're wearing, and this is funny because this is more fantastical, right? What
Mhm.
they're wearing,
Right.
so it flies in the face of, oh, it's not historical, whatever. Which I couldn't totally concede, but it is distinctive.
Mhm.
All of their armor, all of their equipment, it still has some grounding in reality. It's leather. There's obviously a book. There's staves. There's belts,
Yeah,
but
there's a
like it's
satchel,
all, yeah.
backpack.
There's scale mail, and he's got like a baldric, and like
Mhm.
so it all plays lip service to like the '60s and '70s, like that kind of like how the like in movies like Ivanhoe and stuff. You look at
Mhm.
those old. I love old Hollywood costumes. They're
Sure.
fantastic. Um, and this kind of pays lip service to that, but it changes it a little bit, like depending on the character. Like, obviously, like some of the women are a little skimpy, but that works because one of them is, but then the other woman right next to her is wearing something completely different. It's a
Right.
different character. It's a different, maybe a different class or whatever.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like their hair is different. Like the way that they're even looking at the character at the viewer is different.
Yeah,
This
it's a little
guy's
different.
scowling. She's kind of looking like more contented. He's
It's
kind of looking with curiosity. Like everything in the image is interesting
mhm.
and is relatable. So
I dig
it
it.
works.
Yeah.
Like, it works.
And then here's Keith
Oh, it's great.
Parkinson, who I absolutely love, and this is one I wish I could blow up big and just show you the intricate detail that he did. Um,
It's
this
awesome.
is an amazing piece. Obviously not digital.
No, yeah,
Um, just look at the horse. Look at him. It's like as you go deeper into him, my goodness, the detail. But then you look at the bottom and those strange kind of like stalagmites down there. Look how detailed they are, and just perfect kind of silhouette of light around him. This is an incredible piece. And like if I held this up to pretty much almost any modern piece I've seen from 5th edition, I'm gonna pick this every single time. And
yeah,
it's difficult for me to say why. It's simplicity, but detailed
yeah.
and
But
sharp.
it's not just to me. It's not just obviously. I think this is Parkinson, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he did. I'm pretty sure he did a lot of Native American
Uh-huh.
artwork, and you can tell.
Mhm.
Okay, this guy, you're like, okay, well, this entire image is just like, you're like, I guess he's like some kind of like tribal warrior. Like you're looking at his equipment, like he's using metal, like he's
Right.
obviously like,
Staff,
there's so much like his look, his like, I love his oh my
like
god, his
hair knot.
horsehair plume,
Yeah, the
and like
plumage,
his
the
hair,
feathers.
and like his cloak, like so he's traveling, his hand is on his weapon. Like it's just it reeks of like he brings that Native American kind of like
Feel to it.
spirit of like
Yeah,
defiance like into this, and even the color palette and what he's wearing, and he kind of he made a fantasy piece out of it, but it's so
right,
connected to our world. Like,
right.
you may have been in a shop and seen a piece like this. It might have been a Parkinson, but
Yeah,
but you're like, this is this guy, this soldier, this warrior. He's a warrior.
yeah,
That's what he looks like. That's it. He's exuding that.
yeah.
And it's great. It's super interesting. Like,
It really is, and it's amazing how pieces that are so kind of subtle like this, if you take a piece out, so imagine right now, you took away his staff with those feathers.
mhm,
You know what I mean? And I'm thinking about that right now, and I just, kind of thought about that. Like, if you took away those stalagmite things at the bottom, that weird thing, it wouldn't be the same. It's like there was such a cohesion in a strange environment that he's in. That's a different type of landscape there. You know what I mean? And then you said the type of character he may be is kind of strange. And then you have this kind of gray mistiness. It is an amazing piece of art. And it's so funny because it's not action packed.
no,
It doesn't have like, you crazy magic going on. It's simple. I don't know.
it, it captures. What's interesting is it captures a moment in time.
Yeah,
It's like you got a snapshot of this guy that's riding through this field, and he's on business. He's a character, he's a person, he's a personality, and the artist just captured that, and it
right.
just feels like a snapshot in time, maybe a time that's long gone. Like, or in your, it's just very. I keep saying that the word evocative because it is.
Yeah,
A good artist can evoke,
right.
that.
And that's what you said about capturing something in time is the same thing back with this piece. I
Hmm.
feel that same thing with here is that like this is a moment for all them together. That's it's kind of like, hey, look over here, boom, I take it, and I don't know. I think that's a very interesting way of putting it. And then here's another piece from him. My goodness.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
He
Yeah, go
did
ahead.
the didn't he do the EverQuest stuff too?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I mean the EverQuest stuff is amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really
It's
good.
amazing.
Look at, I mean, look at the mountains, man. Look at the armor. Look at the design on the armor. And I love backpacks. That's one of the things that really irks me is, and again, it's that thing where I'm trying to find art that reflects what I think my character looks like and what he has. If you say, "Hey, you got to carry all this stuff," all right, I got a backpack, and I like my back. My backpack's like my little back house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And so,
yeah,
like, I'll see RPG art, and they don't have a backpack on. I'm like, what are you doing? Where you
yeah.
putting all your stuff? And so this for me, and like even the Larry Elmore there with the the Dragonlance piece, they got their backpack down on the ground. This is an awesome piece of art, man. Look at the mountains. Look at the snow on the trees back there.
Mhm.
Look at these little twigs coming up. And like you said, this is it takes us to a place of like reality. It kind of grounds it in reality, and then it shows us the fantasy aspect of it.
Exactly.
This piece is dynamite.
Exactly.
It's
That's
dynamite.
why a lot of old D&D artwork is really wonderful because it does give you it's just very yeah it's the mundane it's
Yeah.
mundane it's a fantasy world and it's just a mundane day. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You're like, oh, this is
Right.
really interesting.
He,
This is a little different, but yeah.
yeah, this is different. This is Spellfire. This is Clyde Caldwell. Um, I love Clyde Caldwell. He's very memorable for me. Very much in the second edition, of course. This is very so. I look at like they have names. Obviously, I'm not going to say them, but like the wizard's expression. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa!
Yeah.
Now I know what she's going on. I know what's happening in this because I know this book and stuff. But like, he's got his sword. He's got his shield. He's kind of, and I don't see modern art doing moments like this where other characters are not in the fray. You know what I mean? It's like modern D&D, like role playing game art. They have to put it, and I say that, but we're really talking about D&D. It's like they have to put everybody in action, and nobody's just taking in what's happening. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And just saying, well, now granted, again, that's from this piece. That's part of it. But I'm a big fan of Clyde because he does stuff like this. This piece was a big deal for me. I remember having the D&D second edition, like the trading cards, and
Hmm.
and these characters were all taken out from this piece of art and made into a card. But he was always very good at, I love, and I've said this on many of my videos, huge jewels, huge gems. They take the eye to it. He did a great job at making them bright. What do you think about this?
Well, it's funny you say that, right? The eyes usually draw your eye, right? But in
Mhm.
his art, the jewel is usually what draws the eye because
Yeah,
it's very similar, right?
yeah.
You have a glossy surface, it's got the two
Hmm.
pips, contrast. So that's what he kind of works on, and it works. Like it's I love her armor as
Hmm.
practical and ridiculous as it is.
Yeah.
It's very fantasy. It's different. It's interesting. She looks super confident. Her
Hmm.
sword is badass. She's got her party. The wizard's doing his thing. They're in. I mean, it just works.
It does.
It classic. It's a classic piece
Mhm.
because I feel like a lot of people that play D&D, this is what they want,
Right.
and the new stuff doesn't really convey a lot of that.
Hmm.
I think part of it is its aesthetics. It's the way that it's done. It's how it's being portrayed. What's going on, but man, they nailed it back in the day. Like
It really
they
did.
really did.
And then here we go.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the man. Here's, to me, like I said, Larry Elmore did the best dragons, myself personally. And I was actually got to meet Larry. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing to speak to him because I told him, I was like, dude, I've been looking at your art for so many years and it meant so much to me to look at it. Tough days when I was younger by myself. I lived overseas and I had these books and I would look at your stuff. But his dragons were muscular. I said, you drew dragons so strong, so big. It seemed like nobody would be able to touch them. Their muscles were on roids. So they had taken nothing but gear all the time. They were just absolute muscle bound freaks, And he said, I wanted to make them ferocious. I wanted to make them fearless. I wanted to make them, something that you could not possibly be able to take down. They were just unbelievable tyrants. But look at this piece, and I love his work on textures when it comes to like I said a lot of his stuff kind of looks like leather almost, or like rock, stone. Skin looks like rock and stone and stuff.
Hmm.
But his actual favorite piece is, and I know I didn't put it up here, is actually that big red dragon that popped out of one of the starter boxes from back in the
Oh,
day of like base,
the
like
classic
D&D.
art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like and there's that guy that's real small and that super muscle bound red dragon. But look at the face on that dragon. Look at the like spittle and stuff, and just, I mean, I'm sure I had to throw Larry in there. I mean, I've got to. And of course, one of my favorite pieces right there.
Hell
Again,
yeah.
he was so good with wood. I mean, I was like, I love his wood. I love his and I can pick out a Larry Elmore piece just like that. I
Well,
mean,
and it's
not
frame.
Larry Elmore. Larry Elmore. I'm sorry. This is Jeff Easley. I'm so stupid.
Yeah,
Jeff
Jeff
Easley.
Jeff Easley was the last one as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Jeff Easley.
yeah,
My brains. It's very late. We've been going for a long
it's fine.
time.
I love how it's framed.
Yeah.
He does a lot. He's one of those artists. He would love to like frame his
Mm-hmm.
pieces
Yeah.
because it's like, obviously like there's interesting things going with the door, and the door itself is telling a story, and like, but like what's going on behind it as it's being opened, right? And it's just like a gateway into what the like
Madness.
this is yeah,
The
and you're
dungeon
just like
master
it's
holds it.
interesting
He
how
has the door.
that's framed.
Yeah, he controls the doors. And then, like you said about framing, look at this piece right here.
Yeah,
Just Lord Soth. You got Tanis. This is just an incredible piece. I
it's
believe
fun.
that's who that is. Please don't skewer me. And I can't believe I messed up Jeff Easley. I mean, he's my top dude, but it's been a long day. It's been
We've
a
been
long day.
talking for like 4 or 5 hours. So
Yeah. It's been a long day.
yeah.
Jeff Easley is my man. I love Larry Elmore. He's right there. He's just maybe just one little notch below Jeff Easley for me.
Yeah.
But I love his use of light and how it kind of expands out. Like, look at this piece here, the light all around. Of course, it's coming off of the crown. I love the way he did armor. There's just, I don't know, it's so interesting how like the Batwing type texture is, how well he did that. And of course, this is all paintings right here. You
Mhm.
know, just an incredible. So yeah. And then we've got Brahm, and I had to show up some Dark Sun here. Such a unique artist, and he's massive. I mean, he did all the Diablo covers.
Mhm.
He's done so much work. I just picked some pieces, and he helped really shape the design of Dark Sun.
Yeah.
Which a neat union of creators and artists.
Well, I would argue more than that, Brahm and then and Justin Sweet, but Brahm is more well known, I guess. But the two of them, that generation, especially Brahm, shaped fantasy art.
Yeah.
You can see all the echoes of Brahm in the new artwork.
Mm-hmm.
The color palette's different, whatever, but bringing a realistic, dirty, down to earth element that a lot of that the dynamicism, I can't say that word, but dynamic stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Brahm was like he's mixing like geometric like shapes with like figures, with like action, with stagnant, and his color palette, like I would argue like he really changed fantasy art. Like if you look at Brahm and then you look at like say somebody like Larry Elmore, they're like completely different. They're
Definitely
just
different.
completely different.
And his muscle, the musculature is just incredible.
Yeah.
It's like a different Voice Vallejo. You know what I mean? Where it's like the muscles are different, but it's so like no one had any fat on them in any like Brahm piece. You know what I mean? Like,
which was but they're also not glistening. Like
no, they're not glistening.
Vallejo loved his him and Julie Bell, that they were lifters, and they had a lot of lifter friends, which is a lot of their photo
where they got it from. Wow,
yeah,
love
no, they're great, you know what I mean, but
I love this piece. I love this piece. I don't know the artist's name, but it's just, this is a game that I've talked about on my video that I really, really enjoy this piece. It meant a lot to me. Warhammer Fantasy First Edition, it was such an incredible experience when I first flipped through it, and it has incredible art all throughout it. And I obviously I couldn't grab all of it, but I remember looking at this and looking at like the skin on the back of this. I think it's an ogre, or maybe, yeah. Like look at the skin texture on the back. I looked at this piece of art so much. That's another thing too, is again going back to access to art and then attaching that with the game that we actively love and play. I felt like I just looked at these pieces all the time, over and over and over again. So they kind of got ingrained in me, from the Troll Slayer down there at the bottom, his orange hair, the axe, like going into that that orc's neck. You know what I mean? The fireball raised up, um, and then like the mohawk, the black and white
I was gonna
mohawk.
say the Mohawks.
Yeah, what a
That's the main thing.
what a strange thing that I wasn't like. It's kind of stands out weird, but
Well,
then like
it's because remember a lot of 40 this artist, I forgot his name
Mhm.
too, but he did an insane amount of 40K, early
Right,
40K, early fantasy stuff. And 40K kind of evolved out of like some punk culture, like
right,
it was a satire,
hmm,
and that's a big thing. That's why Necromunda and stuff like that's all like
yeah,
straight pulled out of like British punk culture,
hmm,
and that follows through in his artwork. Like yeah, like the chaos. You look at I have the old Chaos books,
right.
and they're all pen and ink. Every those pages, those books are works of art. They're insane. Every single page is literally covered in ink, and it's just like a lot of this kind of stuff.
That's
So
awesome, man.
very distinct.
I used to always also look at the rats back there, like jumping. You know what I mean? It's like I'm gonna have this action scene. Well, there's rats too. You know what I mean? I'm gonna throw rats back there,
Yeah.
and they're jumping. You can see their shadows. It's just
Uh-huh.
a wild piece. And then I got to throw this up here. This piece again, pieces that I used to have. So I had Cyberpunk 2020. This was the cover of the box set that I had in the book, and I would just look at this piece, and I would just kind of scrutinize and look it over. And I couldn't stop looking at it. I'd look at like the wires going in the back of his neck, his eyes, of course, the gun, the like underneath his skin, the like the lit up design on his, his. I don't know. There's something about this piece, and it just again, I think it just has to go so much with the attachment of having little because I didn't have a bunch of games. This was the first game I actually physically bought myself was
Mm.
Cyberpunk. So like I had it and it was there. So what did I do? I looked at it. Did I have any other thing really to look at? Not so much. So it's like it's where when you have less, you love it more,
Mm.
than when you're just absolutely stuffed to the gills. Um, Timothy Bradstreet, and this is where I kind of went into some of the other areas of stuff. He was so pivotal when it comes to how Vampire did. Like his art was Vampire the Masquerade,
Absolutely.
and that just again, and it goes back to that black and white thing. Like how strong, simply, and of course he's got some grays and stuff in there too. But look how much he's able to pull out from just those colors. And I think I've got one more um, of
Well,
his.
he did a great Punisher piece.
Oh yeah.
But Tim Bradstreet, when I was in art school, he was big. That was in like 20 art college. It
Hmm,
was university was 2002 to 2006.
hmm,
So Bradstreet had been around for a while, and he came up a lot because he did a lot of photo reference. So this would
right.
literally be a photo reference, and then I think he would trace it, and then he would do his pencil lines for his
Hmm,
ink lines, and then transfer it. So he's interesting because I do feel like his stuff is really evocative
hmm,
because of just the imagery that he's portraying, but also like he's kind of a Drew Struzan, which isn't
hmm,
a bad thing because if
right.
you know anything about how Drew Struzan worked, it was kind of it was interesting, but very photo referenced is
Yeah.
Tim Bradstreet's stuff, but it's very evocative because he brings stuff out of that. He still
Right.
took the photo,
Right.
and so like yeah, his stuff is great. Like
Yeah. It just melds. And that's the thing too. These things, the melding of artist with the game. Like here's Ron Spencer. I mean,
yeah.
if I think of Werewolf, I think of Ron. Like,
Hmm.
he was able to do motion. Like, these things are in motion here, but it's different than the motion that we saw like in some of those fifth edition action things. It goes so well with the speed and the ferocity of Werewolf that his art for me, it just it's like you put a stamp on certain games due to how much they use that artist, and man, he was in all of it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say this is like the best werewolf art, for a werewolf, but it fit the game, the blood, the fury, the teeth, the
Hmm.
action, the movement, you know. So he's just one I definitely wanted to spotlight because I just think it's an absolutely he's a fantastic artist. And then we've got Peter Mullen here. So this is Swords and Wizardry. This is the white box book that they put out. And I remember seeing this and thinking how different this is.
Hmm.
And do I like it? And I do like it. it's not my favorite style. And I do have some stuff that talks about some of the like OSR kind of change and difference and trying to stand out. Peter Mullen is kind of he's abstract. Um, what do you think about this piece?
It's interesting. It's
Yeah,
interesting that they would go with this particular piece,
that's on the
or
cover.
that, and I like when anybody that doesn't do what they do does it. So it's like if you got a cartographer or an artist who's a really good artist, but they've never done a map before, and then you
Mhm,
get them to do a map, it's
mhm.
usually really good
Okay,
because it's very fresh. It's very different. They tackle it in a different way, and that's what this piece kind of feels like.
right.
It feels like somebody who's like does like Hallmark cards. It's like
Yeah,
it's like, hey, we need like a D&D cover, and like we kind of need this going on. And he was
yeah,
like, okay, and then like did it, and they were like, this is pretty good.
yeah. This is
That's what it feels
different.
like. It feels fresh
Yeah,
and weird.
and I wonder with the people that said, okay, like this is the art that we're going to go with. Like this is going to be our cover. And there was obviously something that kind of pushed it over to be like, I want this to be different. I want this to stand out. And I think that's where Peter Mullins he excels at. He's like,
Yeah,
I'm different. This is different. And if you want it to stand out as being different, then here you go. And here's another one of his pieces here. This is in, I believe this is in
that's awesome.
DCC
That's
RPG.
awesome.
Wow. I mean, just you know, body structure and stuff like that just thrown out the window. It's completely abstract. And of course, you've got crazy monstrosities here, beings of superpower from some unknown realm. It makes me definitely think. You can see like the sign of chaos up there, and then this dark figure, and of course the blacks and whites. Again, I don't know what it is, but they sing to me. You know,
Yeah.
the
No, it's
strong.
a fantastic piece. Lots of
Yeah.
different textures going on, lots of
Mhm.
different, yeah, like you said, the creatures, or it's a hell pit. I mean, it's
Right.
literally like it looks like a Hieronymus Bosch,
Mhm.
pen and ink painting. If you know anything about Hieronymus Bosch, he did the very famous paintings with all the hundreds of creatures, scenes of
Yes.
hell. Yeah.
Yes.
And like all you look at all those, you're like, holy crap, there's
Yeah.
just tons of weird mishmash, and that's what this is. It's just awesome. Like
Well,
it's a weird,
yeah. It's a real. And
scary,
for you, you're
scary.
an artist. Like my thing is, I'm not an artist, so like I don't understand where he sees something in his head. Like where does he start? Where is his first like drawing? Where is his like thought of I'm gonna put this here, and then here's a guy. Does it just I wonder. I want to talk to him and be like, did you say I have this main character, and then I'm just kind of branch off from that? So I love the creation. I love the creation of like how did you come up with this board game? Like how did they go? I played so many board games. I'm like, how did they sit down and start making this?
Yeah.
Because it's so we like, how did you do this? How did you start? So I wonder how he started this. What was the first thing?
Well, his first thing is he's doing a thumb. Well, he's given a brief,
Mhm.
right? I mean, he's the client is like, hey, okay, well, we need a scene of this sorcerer or whatever is doing this, and it should
Mhm.
be like hell like, and I got this, and maybe there's certain essential things like the horn demon, or the
Three-eyed.
obviously the sorcerer in the middle. Like there might be things that need to be included,
Yeah.
and then what he'd probably do is do a bunch of thumbnails, and then they'll pick one, and he'll do different angles, different things, different ideas of like, okay, well, what does a scene from hell look like, and like what's going on, and who are these guys, and then basically, yeah, you just go from there. Like you work with the client a little bit, and then they pick I mean, it's creativity mixed with necessity. What does the client want, need?
Right.
Sometimes the clients just like do whatever,
Yeah.
but that doesn't happen a lot. They'll usually go with what you come up with because you're a professional.
Mhm.
And obviously, a lot of this is his own, probably a lot of his own invention, like the
Mhm.
obviously like how it's. But again, you could tell different influences in this image, and I mentioned Hieronymus Bosch because that's what this looks
Mhm.
like tons of just weird crap
Right.
and weird figures and creepy, horrifying, demonic figures. And yeah, so I mean, that's kind of where you go from, and then you just
And
solidify the basics, and then you go from there. You execute the piece.
neat style difference between this and
Yeah.
this. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like shows
Very.
you how quickly he can switch. And then we
Hmm.
got Doug Kovacs here. This is again a Goodman Games. I'm not exactly sure where this piece is. And Doug has got a really neat energy. You know what I mean? That's what I would say about it. It's like I always kind of default to like almost watercolors a little bit. but like
Mm.
but like con- con- controlled watercolors. I know it's not, you know what I'm saying? But like that's what I get out of it when I look at his pieces. Very animated, very a lot of energy. There's never any not colorful pieces, like and colorful stuff like going all around.
Hmm.
I like Doug a lot. He does tons of work for them. Um, but what do you think about this one?
Well, Doug was the he when my first or second year when I was in the art show in Gen Con, he got voted. He got an award for being the grumpiest. He got the
Mhm.
grumpy award
Yeah,
because
I
he
saw.
never Doug Kovacs. He has worked probably more than any other illustrator in that hall 3 times over. He
Wow,
never got any awards.
dang. I can
He never
understand why he'd
he
be
never
grumpy
won, he
then.
never won Gen Con. He never got runner up. He never got anything, and he was always angry about it. And I understand that because he was a working illustrator, works his ass off, puts out lots of stuff. He was always grumpy. He was hilarious.
And is he
And then
painted?
they gave him like a joke award because he was like the grumpy award,
Right,
and he
right.
laughed about it because he was like, he's just one, he's a nice guy, as
Yeah.
grumpy as he can be, but he has a very distinct look.
Yeah, you can
Um,
spot it a mile away.
it's not marketable for like modern 5e.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I
He
think that's where he found his niche
exactly.
was okay, I'm not going to do that. Like he did some stuff. I think he did. I don't know if he worked for WotC for a few things here and there back in the day. I think he
Mhm.
did. I think he did. He may have done some early Magic cards or something.
That would make
But like,
sense.
he had a lot of friends in the industry, and he just worked his ass off. He
Yeah,
worked constantly,
and it's painted.
and very distinct.
Yeah, definitely
I like
so.
it. I think it's cool. It's interesting.
This is my buddy, William McAuslin here again, a strong artist in the OSR. I really like him because I mean, other than knowing him and being buds with him, is his he loves them tufts of grass, man. I've never told this to him, but like, look at all the tufts of grass. He does it everywhere, you know. And I something about his pieces. They're very kind of even though he makes like the Mutant Epoch, and that's this very strange Gonzo, futuristic post-apocalyptic game. His
Yeah.
fantasy pieces though are just I don't know. I can pick them out like that, and that's one thing again that's really good about a lot of OSR artists. And I say OSR, but he does a lot for Goodman Games too. Is look at that. Look at all that energy. Like that's a bunch. That's a lot
Hmm.
of drawing in there. But it
Yeah.
doesn't seem too busy. He's able to contain like busyness. And that's one thing I like about it. And his use of like the darkness on their characters to help stand like look at the shield. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the shield is cool, the
It's
armor and the guy in the front. Is
the
it
armor on the guy in the front and the shield are flat black. That's
mhm,
basically, and a little bit on the, I guess, the ranger. But yeah,
mhm,
everything else is hatched, or it's
mhm.
controlled.
Right.
It's all controlled, and it's right next to white, so you have extreme contrast. That's why you go right to them. His use of line work is really good. It differentiates the tree from the background, and then you have the background trees, which are just hatches. Yeah, I mean, he controls the image. Like it's very
He
evocative.
he
I agree.
reminds me a little bit of Russ Nicholson, a little bit. You know what I mean? When it comes to a lot of extra, like extra dots, extra little things. I can't let this be a little patch of not grass. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like if there's grass here, I'm drawing the grass everywhere. I'm not going to just let it be. And this suffices when it comes to that. You know.
Mhm.
So of course I'm biased as I love Will. He's great. I'm just showing some. Stefan Pogue has done a ton of stuff for me for Goodman Games. I really like his style. Their
Mm.
their bodies are very strange. They're very, um, I don't know how exactly to put it. I don't probably have the right word for it, but I'm just a big fan of it. I think it truly is great OSR pieces, every one that he does. But look at the blacks. You know what I mean? Look at that black so strong. And then all the little hash marks when it comes to Brad McDevitt's also the same way with the little lines, you know? And the use of white like on the frogs and then all the intricate parts of the armor. Look at that. I mean and then the white
Yeah.
all around them. What do you think?
His work reminds me of the Princess Mononoke um,
Mhm,
manga.
mhm,
I think it's Hayao Miyazaki, the artist. I mean, the
mhm.
director artist. But that's what his work reminds me of. This if you've ever read that manga, you look at that line work and you're like, this is very evocative of that, very organic, very like it's very defined, it's
Mhm,
very busy, but
mhm.
it's also very organized. Like,
Yeah,
you know, nothing is lost in this image. You
right.
know, he's controlling all those lines. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I think it just goes to his style. Like,
right,
I don't mind that the figures are like, I think they're human enough. Like, they look
right.
fine. I don't think they're like, weirdly proportioned or anything. But no, yeah, it's just lots of detail, lots of character going on. Like,
Yeah, and
but it's
it's
not
and it's
overwhelming.
right, and it's very fantastical. Like, I don't know, there's something about I'm like, "Why do I love this piece?" And it's hard to explain that. It has to do with just I know the effort of the black and the white so much. It's like it's simple, but then it, like, explodes past that with all this work that's done to make it busy and make it come alive, and it doesn't have to do all the color and the digital strange color, like, waves and stuff like that. I don't know, I really I've got some more of his pieces here, you know? And that see, this is you can see this piece, what it is. It's a take on that piece I showed before,
Yeah.
So look at what he was able to do. He unbusied it a little bit at the bottom. He's got that strong dark underneath the
Well,
kind of
this
like
this looks like a work in progress, right?
yeah,
Because
it could
he's
be. Yeah, it
yeah,
could be.
this is still he's. It looks like he had.
He's
I
still
could
working
see
on that
his like
left.
initial pencil lines and where he
Yeah.
needs to fill in. So this is probably a lot busier.
Yeah. I love
Um,
his gore. You know what I mean? His
yeah,
gore is great. Like, look at the cut off limbs and, like, the, like, spewing out, and you can see
uh-huh.
all, like, like, the vertebrae and stuff that are sliced. I don't know, it's neat that it is very much obviously like that other piece. And then I've got to talk about Keenan James. Keenan James, I think, is, in my opinion, one of the best OSR artists out there. He did great pieces in Dragon Slayer role-playing game. He is just very, very good. He has a very much a Games Workshop type of feel to like his orcs there. Like they've got a
Oh
they've
yeah.
got a twistiness to it. You know what I mean? Like I mean, surely he's inspired by a Games Workshop artist, but Keenan James is
I'm
fantastic
assuming he
blacks.
worked for them at some point. How
He
old
may,
is he?
I'm not really sure. I think he's probably about my age,
He
but
probably has. He this is reeks of Games
yeah,
Workshop. I
yeah,
mean, and it is great. It's
yeah.
fantastic because those orcs are fantastic.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. I don't know. I mean, when I first saw him, I just went, "Ooh." And it's like, why am I saying that? You know what I mean? And it's the strong blacks. Look at the black underneath.
Hmm.
I call them audiugs. Underneath the audiug, like that black, that dripping off, the little dots, and
Hmm.
there's slight, there's just a hint of cartoon in there. You know what I mean? Like this is an animated type of thing. But his style, it's so weird to not be able to really put it into words why this works so much for me.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I really dig. And then look at this. Look at the
Yeah,
great
it's
use
great.
of black.
Yeah.
His blacks do so much. Look at the thief character, how much of his chest and stuff is and his arm is in black and darkness.
Yep.
And it just gives it this I don't know. I mean, like I see this and I'm just like, this is way better than
It
anything that I see in other stuff.
it's like a woodcut. It
Yeah,
kind of yeah, it's kind of got a
yeah,
woodcut.
a woodcut really stands out. Um, boy, it's strong, and then just great, like the eyes, the dots for the eyes, like simplicity mixed with really great like control of like the shadows of it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. And then this is from Old School Essentials, and this is some of the pieces that they're doing that people don't like. They don't like this. It's fantastical. It's cartoonish. It's whimsical. Um, and they do a lot of these pieces, and I don't hate it. I I don't prefer it.
I honestly don't think it's finished. It doesn't.
Maybe not.
I don't think it is, because if you look at his cloak, you look at the wizard's cloak, you can see the digital brush strokes,
Mhm.
and like even in the mountains and whatever that root system is, like there's light next to dark, and that's just literally the digital brush.
Gotcha.
This doesn't look fully finished, to be honest.
Mhm. But it's
Um,
not gonna be too much different than that, though, would it?
well, you'd be surprised,
Yeah.
like from a 75% finished piece to a finished piece could be
Mhm.
big. So
I don't hate it. They're trying to
I don't
get a
hate it. I like the line work. I think the coloring should be finished, but I mean,
mhm,
I don't mind the line work. I think it's fun. I
yeah,
don't mind things that are different. Not everything has to be super
right.
serious, dark, dreary, and awful. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like, not
right.
everything is Dark Souls. You know what I mean? Like you should have levity in your
Mhm,
how many times how much levity do you have in your games? Plenty.
right.
You know, I'm
Yeah,
sure. Like that's kind of it should be evocative of that. And this is I like that they're not fighting.
yeah,
They're
once
just
again,
they're
we got something that's not 100% fighting, but I know and if somebody says they hate this piece, I understand. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those
sure.
things I say, "Hey, that's not your bag, I get it." But,
Yeah.
like, a Jeff Easy or Larry Elmore, you say you don't like it, I'll be like, "Really?" You know, like, "What are you talking about?" Of course, I still
Well, I
think
mean, it's so this is almost like uh cartoonish, you
mhm,
know what I mean? Like it's just a very different way of working.
mhm.
So, but yeah, I
But
don't mind lighthearted stuff. I think there should be more of it. To be honest,
yeah, I mean,
this isn't really dark. This is kind of like funny, like
yeah, a
interesting.
little bit. They've kicked these guys' ass. That door is absolutely massive. But really, it's all about the statue and the eyes, and I dig it. But I think ultimately, as we kind of wrap, that's the last picture I've got.
Yeah,
I think for me, my last little spill will be so much of this, like a lot of the stuff that we talk about, is so ingrained in our nostalgia, and we have so much today that I feel like great art, along with a lot of other stuff, gets diminished because we have so much of it now. We can't really take it and really cherish it due to not having very much of it. If we didn't have, I mean, imagine if you didn't have some of these pieces, you can just Google and do whatever and see these stuff everywhere,
yeah,
everywhere. Even
yeah.
video games is a big part of it too
Well,
now. Like we
now
talked
you
about.
can create it with AI. That's a
Yeah,
whole
you can
different
create it with
thing.
AI, so it
That's terrifying.
diminishes. Yeah, it
Yeah,
diminishes. It's just like anything. If you could put a I've said this to people, if you could put a fishing pole into the water and just immediately pick up a fish every single time, you would not get what you want out of fishing because of that. You know what I mean?
right.
And I feel the same way with this, where when you had less, you cherished it more, and but at the same token, it was good. A lot of this art was like we talked about. It stood out. It was simple. It was colorful. It did what it was supposed to do. Um, and that's ultimately my kind of spill about this stuff, is that the art is still good. I would love to know if there's a younger person out there, what they think about older art, if they could put their finger on it, kind of looking backwards, because I'm always looking about, kind of anchored in the past, and going forward and having to say whether or not something's good or not, having already seen this stuff, and grown up with it. So that's my last bit. What do you think?
I think my thing would be to view artwork in the context in when it was created and
Mhm,
how. Like I think there's a reason why we've seen a switch, a change, how the artwork has evolved.
mm,
And I think you got to know a little bit too. Like it's hard to judge a lot of this stuff. It's hard to judge really anything without context.
mhm.
And so even in its time, people probably may have thought that this artwork was crap. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like
right.
it's not like,
Yeah.
but now looking back on it, it does have the value of nostalgia. It does it's There's so much has come after that you
Mhm,
appreciate it more
mhm,
now that you're not there. That's not for everybody, but
mhm.
that's a lot of this stuff. And I feel like that may actually happen with our current artwork, where it's like, right now it's like not what we want, not what I want, not we and we're talking about it. And that's how things move forward. 25 years from now, you look back and you're like, oh, actually, like this is kind of there's things in that piece that I like now, and it makes me appreciate that piece more. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's the wonderful thing about artwork. Like artwork, it changes as much as like movies and
Mhm.
like shows that like didn't really hit when they first came out, and then you come back and you watch them, you're like, this
Yeah,
is like really good. Like, you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like it's a lot different than how I viewed it at the time
right,
because of what was going on, right?
right.
So it's just really interesting. I like talking about kind of like the more technical stuff, like from the artistic perspective and like
Mhm.
the digital versus traditional and like where the market was going. really interesting to me, and I don't know if a lot of the audience knows a lot of that either,
Mhm.
which is kind of what I'm trying to bring to this kind of stuff. But I do agree, like, yeah, I mean, the artwork. It'll be interesting hearing a young person's take, a younger person's take, or
Mhm.
somebody new to D&D on this stuff,
Right.
and see how you're like, oh, they may think it's crap, or they may be like, no, it's like just different, like weird and kind of kooky. Like I kind of like
Mhm.
that. You know what I mean? A lot of ground to cover
Yeah.
in art and in D&D, right? So
Definitely, again, it's kind of difficult not to just default to D&D, but that's obviously a lot of the pieces that people can recognize or,
sure,
that type of art. There's a lot of really great art for a whole bunch of different genres, of course. I didn't even talk about, like, Western art and, horror art, there's
yeah,
just so much that we could have talked about, but I just it's weird how you immediately know that you like a piece, and sometimes
yeah,
you can't really explain it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I feel that, um busyness for the sake of being busy sometimes I it's too detailed. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it, it's like it's too detailed. It's not spread out enough, and that's ultimately probably my first initial, like, red flag. I'm like, "That's too busy. I don't know what I'm looking at." It's kind of if I blur my eyes, it's all just a mess.
yeah,
Um, you've done too much, and a lot of the simpler stuff, the simpler things like these, that's where I it evokes more of like this, it evokes more of what I see in my mind, of the actual game when it's being played. So this has been fun, dude. I hope you've enjoyed looking through these things, and I'm certain said
yeah,
people are gonna we'll see what they say in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. Me and Jared,
yeah.
what y'all think about what we've talked about here. I still cannot believe I messed up and said Larry Elmore when it was Chuck
Oh, it's
Easley, and
fine.
but like I said, I'm running on fumes, man. I'm really.
They know what you're talking about, and yeah, we've been talking for a while.
Yeah, yeah, and I had an unbelievably hellish day at work. So I don't know. We'll see if I can even get this thing done here tonight. But I appreciate everybody for watching this. Let us know what you think about art pieces you like. And again, I didn't want it to be just a absolute like slam fest on some stuff, but really getting into what is it that you like, because it's weird to see a piece that's very technically done well and you have no connection to it
Yeah.
at all. And is it nostalgia a lot that you don't have attached to it? Will
I
people have
I
that in
think
the
we were
future?
pretty I think we were pretty even-handed.
Yeah.
I don't think we dunked on really
No.
anybody. Even the
No.
artists that like it, look, you're an artist, not all your pieces work amazingly. It's
Right.
just like filmmakers. Like, some things are going to be
Sure.
better than others. Some people are really going to like the pieces that you don't really like. That's a
Mhm.
big thing. Like you just like technically, obviously, most of these, almost all of the modern illustrators are fantastic illustrators. I
Oh
mean, they're
yeah. God, yeah.
from a technical perspective, beautifully done. But is it interesting, evocative, and does what you want it to do, like for the viewer? And it's not going to do that for everybody, and I think that's legitimate. Like, not every piece is going to be a success. The artist might even tell you, yeah, it wasn't my favorite piece. Sometimes that happens too, but yeah, I mean, it's nice covering so much ground. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting seeing that just the difference in color palette, I think, is
Right.
just wild. Like,
Mhm.
the old stuff is just almost all the entire color palette's open, and a lot of the new stuff is much more focused,
Right.
much more. So anyway, but yeah, really interesting stuff.
That's
So
good, man. Yeah. Well, I hope y'all dug this video. If you do, let us know what you think about it, and we will make another video for you soon. So stay tuned for that. So
yeah.
thanks a lot, everybody.